how can we maintain happiness according to the will of God? Because God created us to be joyous and to be joyful and to enjoy happiness of the family. But we know that there is this one person called Mr. Devil who does not want us to experience or to have an experience with the gift of what? Of joy that God has given us. And therefore joy, just as our sister has defined it, is a feeling of great pleasure and happiness. And we are being told that true joy is limitless. It is not limited. True joy is never done what? It is never limited. It is limitless. It is life-defining. Joy defines our lives as children of God. It also transforms our lives. It is like a reservoir that we are waiting to do what? To draw from. And we say that the source of joy is Jesus Christ himself. Praise be to God. Now, true joy requires the utmost surrender. True joy, if you want to experience true joy, it requires the utmost surrender, and it is a choice to be made by an individual. So joy, for us to experience joy, you must make a choice to be what? To be joyous or to be happy. No one is going to force you to be happy. If you choose not to be happy, even not your children, not even your spouse will force you to be what? To be happy. And therefore, we are being told when we read our key text, which is Philippians chapter 4, verse 4, what does the Bible say? Paul is telling us that rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, do what? Rejoice. Now, I want us to look at that text and the emphasis of rejoicing. Paul is telling us, rejoice in the Lord always. Now, don't rejoice in the wealth that God has given you. Don't rejoice in something else apart from God. Paul is saying that let us rejoice in who? We rejoice in the Lord. And he's emphasizing and saying that, again, I will say what? Rejoice. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. And again, I say rejoice. Always. And again, I say rejoice. And therefore, Paul is emphasizing this free gift of what? Of joy. Joy, which is also what? Happiness. Joy brings happiness into our lives. We find that joy is the happy delight that we feel that comes with the sense of what? Of peace and contentment. Now, what brings joy in our lives or happiness is to have a peace of mind and to be contented. Hello? I want you to follow me very closely. Paul is telling us, or rather we are being told that for us to experience limitless joy, then we must have what is called what? Inner peace. And that's why Jesus, before he left, when he's praying, when you study the gospel I love so much, that is the gospel of John, he says that peace I give unto you, not as the world gives. He's praying for the disciples and any believer in any generation, that my peace I give unto you. And he says that his peace surpasses the human what? Understanding. And therefore, for us to experience joy in our lives, as Christians or as Christian families, we must experience what? We must have peace of mind coming from God himself. And he's also saying that we must be contented. Families do have various challenges, and your family will never be the same as the family of your neighbor. Your family will never be the same as the family of your fellow elder or your fellow co-worker or your fellow church member of Makadara. And we find that the devil has always brought this thing, I call it over-ambition, whereby you look at what so-and-so has and you also admire. You want to have that. Na unasema liwe liwalo, hata kama ni kuiba, nitaenda niibe na mimi nikuwe na gari. We are being told that for us to enjoy or to experience joy in our families and in our hearts individually, we must be contented with what we have. Praise be to God. And therefore, we have to ensure that God's peace that surpasses the human understanding dwell in our hearts, and the contentment of God, whatever God has given unto us, is also dwelling in our minds and in our hearts, so that we accept what God has given unto us. When you look at the heights of these fingers, you realize that they are not all the same, isn't it? They are different. That's why Jesus will always use available objects to teach us. You just have it here. When you're seeing that so-and-so, probably according to your perception, is doing better, this family is doing better than you are, just put your fingers here and ask God to teach you where does your family belong, and be contented. And I'm not saying that stay there. Ask God. You know, God has his way of providing the things that we need in our lives, isn't it? And he will provide them according to his will and according to his pace. Umejua kuna mtu hapa akipewa gari hata kanisa tawacha. Hello? Yes. Na Mungu anapokuangalia anasema, hapana, huyu Shamala, subiri kwanza, subiri kwanza. Wacha komae kwanza, ninapompa hii, haitamtatiza katika maisha yake ya kiroho. Kwa sababu maisha yetu ya kiroho ni muhimu kwa Mwenyezi Mungu. Ni nguzo kubwa katika imani yetu. Now, when we're talking about joy, you have to make a choice to be joyous and to be joyful. Hello? No one is going to decide for you and force you to be happy. And therefore, we must cultivate this gift and this joy and happiness in our lives. We are being told that if you are truly happy within yourself and in your relationship with your partner or in your family, then that joy will always flow from the what? From the heart. And therefore, what is required in our hearts, first of all, is to have that joy in our hearts. Now, as parents, when we have joy in our hearts, this joy will flow from our hearts to those who are what? Who are our neighbors. If you are a husband, if you are a joyous person, and you want your family to experience the love of God and joy, you must first of all invite Jesus into your heart to be your personal savior, because he's the source and the foundation of what? Of our joy. And now, when we now have this personal joy in our hearts, then it is easier to make our spouses, to make our children, to do what? To be joyous also in their lives as they grow. And many times you realize that you may force people to be joyous, to be happy, whereas yourself, wewe umebeba dunia mzima umeweka kwa mabega. People do not see joy in you, and yet you want people to be what? To be joyous, to be happy in your family. We are being told that first of all, be happy yourself, be joyous yourself. That is when that joy can now flow from your heart to the heart of the person that is next to you. And as we said yesterday, that the people who are next to us are our family members, are our spouses, are our what? Are our children, are the people that we live together with in our families. But if you make your life to be so mechanical, to be so dry, yourself, you don't experience that joy. And if you want to, I want to challenge you. One of these fun days, just go home and you decide to be gloomy. You are not talking. Mzee enda tu pale, let me talk to fellow men. You are not talking, you are very moody and you are so gloomy and you are wearing that kabadi sad face. Yes? And then, look at the face of your wife, look at the faces of your children, see if you will see any joy in them. Kwanza watashangaa, nini mbaya na huyo mungwana? Ana raha leo, raha imeenda. Utaona kila mtu, mama anajipanga kwa ofisi yake jikoni. Watoto wanaanza kujipanga kwa rumi yao. Kwa sababu nini? Mzee mwenyewe aoneshi furaha ama raha katika nini? Maisha yake. You are so much dry. And then the following day, come when you're so joyous, you're so much excited, you are singing that favorite song that you love so much, isn't it? You are singing that hymn that you love. Alafu uone, you'll see that People are now attracted to you. They start coming closer. Mami anakuja, daddy, how are you? Anakuhug. By the way, how many of us hug their spouses? Happy Sabbath. Good evening. How many of us, those who are married, how many of us usually take the advantage to hug their spouses? Wait until they die. That's when you'll miss them. Hello? Yes. Yes. You know, there are things that we neglect in life, and more so family life. And when that person is not there, then that's when you start singing the song, I Wish I Knew. You know that song? I wish I knew. I wish I had done it. I wish, please do it now. And as we said yesterday, you know, in heaven we are going to be very joyous. We are going to be, hata kama uko na sura mbaya kama Patroba hivi, we are going to be very what? Joyous. And start practicing that joy hapa. If you cannot practice that joy here, so naona hata Mungu atakuonea huruma, ataona hakuna haja wewe kuingia binguni, manake utatatizika na furaha, kwa sababu hata hapa duniani au kufanya nini, au kuwa mtu ambaye ni mtu ambaye amechangamka. Kwa hivyo we are being told that for us to maintain or to have what is called a healthy mind, then we must do what? We must experience and we must purpose to have joy in our hearts. And for that joy to be in our hearts, we must be peaceful. We must be contented with what we have. Jesus is telling us that you cannot give what you don't have. And therefore, if you want your family to experience joy, hata kama mnakunywa chai rangi, hata kama mnalala njaa, ensure that there is joy in what? In that house. And the joy, for that joy to be experienced in that house by all family members, ensure that each and every person individually, you have this joy in your heart. Now, for us to experience joy in our families, we must devote quality time and effort to do what? To prioritize it in our lives. We must do what? We must give it quality time. What do I mean? There are some of us parents that we don't have. Yes, we are working for that family. You are working for that family, and yet you don't have time for that family. Hello? You are working so hard for your children, and yet you are not present to what? In their lives. They don't feel you. Fellow men, before you realize that you are working for an empty shell. There is no family. You don't even know your children. You don't understand your wife. Nduna hapo unakuja waze muniombe, I don't understand my wife. Yourself, you have not created time. So for us to have this joy in our families, we must create quality time with our children and with our spouses. And we're going to see what activities can we engage in that bring joy in our families so that we may experience this joy. We are being told that the desire of all parents is for their children to be happy in their lives. Isn't it? Is that the desire for us parents? How many of us don't want their children to be happy in their lives? Wanapokuwa pale shuleni, wanapokuwa wakubwa, wanapotoka katika familia zetu, wanakuwa na familia zao. Our greatest prayer as parents is to ensure that our children remain happy in their what? In their lives all the time. Isn't it? Now, whatever we want for our children must start with us as parents. Bwana sifiwe. All this must start with us. That is, it must be modeled within our lives as children of God, as spouses, as fathers, as mothers. If you want your children to be happy and to be joyous, you must first of all model this joy in your life so that they can look at you. When they look at you, they see what? They see joy. They see happiness. They don't see anything gloomy. They see an excited parent. Hata kama mnalala njaa, watoto wana, yani ile furaha tu peke yake, dadi amekuja. Fathers, how many of us huwa wanalakiwa, yani, you know, our family members know even the mgeni akinoko mlango, they know we will see daddy. Lakini kuna ile design ikinokewa, they just know that is daddy or mommy knocking. Am I lying? Probably it's only happening in my family. There's a way that if I knock, they know huyu jamaa ndio huyo amefika. Isn't it? Now, that knock, when you knock, do people rush to the door to come and welcome you home, ama kila mtu anajipanga? They know ni wewe unaingia, lakini unapata ule mdogo ndio wanatoa, endo fungulie daddy. Hello, we are speaking about what? Joy and happiness. Are you a joyous person? Yani watoto wanapokaa pale nyumbani wako na shida, when they hear that knock on the door, everybody wants to come and akurukie na kukumbatie, and they welcome you home, ama wanajipanga. Are you a joyous person to be welcomed home? That's what I'm trying to say. And Jesus is telling us that we must, for us to experience joy in our families, it must first of all be what? Be in our hearts and in our lives. So that when people see it, they do what? They get attracted to the joy that you have. That is what will pull your spouse to welcome you home in a joyful manner. Praise be to God. But if you are a gloomy person, hata mama kiwa na furaha pale nyumbani, walikuwa mama amecheka na watoto, lakini baba kama anakuja kwa sababu baba ni mtu mudi, wanasema ai starehe imeenda. What am I trying to say? That if you are not a joyous person, you are robbing your family of the opportunity to tap into that potential of being joyous in their lives. And we know that a joyful spirit, we are going to read from the verses that we have a few of them before we finish. It gives us what? A merry heart. Now, whatever we do, first of all, it must be modeled in us as parents. Now, as parents, we must be the thermostats. We must be, a thermostat is something that sets up something to move, okay? A thermostat sets up what? A temperature. And like a thermometer, that its work is only to read the what? The temperature. Hello, are we together? We are being called upon that we must be the thermostats in our families. I'm talking to parents, I'm talking to mothers, and I'm talking to fathers. And I'm talking to prospective parents in this congregation. We must be thermostats. We must be the genesis. We must be the foundation of joy in our families. But we must not be thermometers to measure how joyous are you. Wewe umefurahi sana, kwani nini nakufurahisha? Why are you laughing? I mean, what's the problem when children are happy in the house? Kwa sababu you have no experience with joy, unataka ukiingia pale kila mtu ako serious. No, wacha kupimia watu hewa. Be a joyous what? A joyful person. It helps us to maintain a healthy mind even as we continue in our journey of faith. Point number 2, focus on gratitude. How do we cultivate joy? We've said point number 1, it must start with us. Point number 2, we must focus on what? On gratitude. And gratitude, we talked about it, I think it was day 2, isn't it? I'm not going to emphasize on that. Be grateful for every good gesture that is done unto you by what? By a fellow family member. Be it a child, be it your wife, be it your husband. Be someone who is what? Who is appreciative. Appreciate what somebody does unto you. For you to be done what? To be appreciated. By the way, if you don't appreciate people, people will not appreciate you. Hello? So one thing that gives us joy or help us to cultivate joy in our families is to be do what? Is to be grateful, to have gratitude, to be thankful in our lives. As we read in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 from verses 16 to 18 when we were studying gratitude. Can Mwalimu read for me Ephesians chapter 5 verse 20? What does the Bible say? What is Paul telling us in the book of Ephesians chapter 5 verse 20? Ephesians 5:20. Nam. Giving thanks all the times. Therefore, for us to have this joy, and you realize that when you keep on thanking somebody, you realize that you put joy in the heart of that person, and even you have what is called what? Inner satisfaction. You will experience the inner satisfaction. And when you have inner satisfaction in your heart, then joy will start flowing. Bwana sifiwe. let us not be mechanical in our families, but let us embrace the virtue of joy, of joyfulness, of being joyous all the time. The challenges are there, yes. Somebody will say that, now naenda kulala njaa, how can I be joyful? Yes, with Jesus you can remain to be what? To be joyful. Even if things are not okay in the family, you can remain to be what? To be joyful. Because Christ is the source of joy. He will come and dwell in our hearts, and any other problem and worry, he will bring a solution. Point number 3, we must also purpose to play together. We must purpose to do what? To play together. Lakini kwa sababu tumebatizwa, tunashiriki Pasaka, tunaenda Makadara SDA Church, sisi tunasubiri Yesu akuje, hakuna kucheza. Hello? Yes. Na mtu anasema you know, it's interesting. Yani mami anataka kucheza na mzee, na unaona watoto wako hapa. Ami nakunga ni kina mama ndio wanasema hivi. Unaona watoto wako hapa. Je, before watoto wakuje mlikuwa mnacheza? Mbona mnaniangalia na macho ya huruma? Hello? Lakini kwa sababu umeishi miaka 20, 30, when you should now enjoy the joy of the family, watoto wako, and probably God has also blessed you with wajukuu. Sasa hizo ndio Eld unasema, wewe wacha mchezo, wewe uone watoto wako hapa. Play with your spouse. Yes, it is biblical. Walk with me to the book of Genesis chapter 26 verse 8. Let us see, are people allowed to play? You know, the problem is that we are so much African cultured to the point that we forget that we are Christians. Yes, what does it say?
Now it came to pass.
It came to pass, something was happening.
When he had been there a long time.
Yes. Yes, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, peeped through the window.
Looked through a window.
Yes. And
there was Isaac.
And so there was Isaac. What was Isaac doing?
Showing endearment to Rebekah, his wife.
Now, showing endearment to Rebekah, what? His what? Rebekah, who is what? His wife. Now, who was NIV? That is King James, isn't it? Now, who was NIV? Yes, Steve? Isaac was sporting. Now, that is an expressive language being used there by NIV. They were sporting. Now, what is to sport? To sport is to play. Hello? Let's make it simple. These two people, these spouses were doing what? Were playing. And the king of the Philistines saw them. Lakini hapa wewe, mami, dadi anataka kucheza na wewe. Wewe, umejua siku hizi si ni watu wakubwa. Kwani mlipoana mlikuwa wadogo? Hello? Who said that if you have been in that marriage for 20, 30 years, you don't need to play with your spouse? In fact, it is now the time that you need even to do what? To play more, tickle her. You know, you are trying to do what? To blend and to ensure that there is joy in the family. Bwana sifiwe. Wangapi walicheza? When was the last time you played with mzee lastly? Sister Eunice, when was the last time? Can you remember? Whew. To maintain healthy minds, we must be joyous. Remember those days, you know, like during our time, if you had a 50 bob, that was enough for out. Chips luthuli ya mbao. Munanunua juice zile ya 5 bob. Who went through that? Juice ilikuwa ni ya 5 bob, tena ya passion. Munamimina kwa chupa moja. Si hata chupa ngapi? 2. Na munabai tu, mmebakisha mbao. Munatembea munaenda wapi? Uhuru Park. Na munaka and you can talk, na munaweza cheka, munaweza fanya, yani you are joyous. Tena you don't need 2 bottles, you only need 1. Pale munamimina hiyo juice na chips mnaweka, ilikuwa ni karatasi ya brown hivi. Inawekwa na kila mtu anaokota na unamfeed na yeye anakufeed. Joy. Where did it go to? Elder, where did it go to? Ama kwa sababu siku hizi sisi ndio wakubwa. Hiyo iliisha. We need to make our families to be what? To be joyous. And therefore, we must play together. Take part in family activities. Work together with your children. Take a time to do what? To do some craft. And I thank God for CBC is back. CBC is back. Utasoma na watoto wako. Upende usipende. Hello? CBC is back and you'll make those cuttings. Na utamsaidia. Be together. It brings joy. Let me tell you, there is nothing that's